Good evening. Are we ready to meditate? We're gonna meditate the news tonight, and yeah, that probably wouldn't work. um, man, not a whole lot today in particular. There was a bit of news here and there. Um, it's been like it's almost like we're building up to something, and that's the feeling that I get. That we're building up to something probably pretty major. But as far as the past few days have gone, I haven't seen anything super monumental. A lot of craziness per usual, but aside from that, nothing extraordinarily. It's been relatively quiet. I actually did a fair amount of flight simming. Didn't go live for any of it. I just, it's one of those things that I start the flight sim, and it takes so long to load up. It takes forever to load up, and then you pick your aircraft, your airport you're taking off from, whatever, and then it takes forever to load into that. So it takes considerable amount of time, and I just like to get in there and get stupid. I just like to get in there and just make the plane do things it's not supposed to do, and push the envelope. I like to push the envelope on the low end, meaning stalls and stuff like that. But anyway, so I get in there and I fool around. I usually blow through a plane full of fuel, and then I'll land and quit. So a lot of times I do all that loading in, and I might fly for 20-25 minutes, and that's it. So really isn't real worth going live for. But anyway, I did do that a few times. I've got my customized F-18 right about where I want it. It's pretty well, probably as good as I'll get it. It goes considerably faster than a normal 18. F-18. It'll do Mach 2. But anyway, let's see. Trying to think if there's anything. I mean, there was, and I'm sure you've heard about this. There were 3 shootings over the weekend. 2 in South Carolina, and 1 Pittsburgh, I think it was. The one in Pittsburgh did have a couple of fatalities. Apparently, it was a party that was at a B&B, an Airbnb, and several hundred people, many underage, and don't know what happened, but there wound up considerable amount of rounds being fired, and what do they call that thing, shot something or whatever. They've got that system of microphones set up, and I forget what they call that system, but anyway, it detected like 90-something shots. However, they say that there was a lot more than that fired because their system wouldn't have necessarily picked up on all the shots that were fired on the inside of the building. So, and apparently, evidence would suggest that there was a whole hell of a lot of rounds shot inside as well, too. So it's amazing that there was only 2 fatalities, and I don't know, maybe about 7, 8 other people injured, I guess, and hopefully I'm not getting them mixed up. I could be getting them mixed up, so forgive me if I am. Like I say, there was 3 different ones. None of them even remotely like what had happened in the subway. I believe two of these incidents. Hang on a second. two of these incidents, this incident at this Airbnb in Pittsburgh and a mall shooting in South Carolina, seem to both be, I don't necessarily want to say gang related, but that type of mentality anyway, groups of people, disagreement, fight, not something that was just like, that's why I think it's crazy, because the headlines are like 3 mass shootings, and it's like, but are they really? I mean, I don't call it a mass shooting when you have individuals that know one another, that get in an altercation and it escalates and there's gunplay going on right then and there. I don't consider that a mass shooting, right? And I'm not saying that a mass amount of people can't get hurt. It has nothing to do with that. To me, a mass shooting, the mindset is to go out and take out as many people, to cause as much carnage as possible, whether you personally know your targets or not, but to cause as much carnage as possible. And there's a big difference between just going out to cause as much carnage as you can and having a rival that you were arguing with and getting involved in a shootout. They're two totally different scenarios. And I think that it's a very dangerous thing to treat them the same, because they're nowhere near the same. And I don't know what to say about these incidents to where they're gang related or there's an argument that gets out of hand. I don't know, As far as the mass shootings, we need to be able to actually identify those so we can get to the bottom of what's going on and do just that, by the way, because as we see once again with the subway ordeal, they're wanting to tiptoe around some things. And, I think that's a huge mistake, because the more we fail to address these things, the more issues of the like kind we're going to have. And I would imagine, with the nature of everything that is going on in the world, especially with it being so much harder for the average person to make it because of increased prices and what have you, I would imagine we're going to see an increase in incidents like this. So, and I think it's going to be a pretty sharp increase. And if you've been paying attention, there has been a pretty sharp increase in violence. So, and a lot of it's kind of domestic. People that know each other, it's really getting crazy. It really, truly is. Pardon me. I've got some headlines. I've got like 4 tabs open. Not a whole lot, especially considering, we got 3 days worth of news. But I try to avoid going back too far on the Sunday show, because if I discuss a headline from Friday, God knows what all else has happened since Friday on that particular topic. So I try to stick around like the last day or so when I do this for Sunday, because again, I try to be careful not to get the timeline of things wrong, because that could be huge. And sometimes that's hard to do when you do news. And the reason why is because the news will bounce back and forth from story to story, of course. And so sometimes it can get a little confusing to keep timelines in order and whatnot. I do my best, though. Pardon me. But I do have 4 tabs brought up, and the first one I wanted to talk about, it was an article that was actually put out on April 11th on a local news station's website. And I thought it was really interesting why Missouri has a target on its back for cyber attacks. And, well, I'll read the article and then I'll talk a little more on it. It says, could Missouri's electric power grid be at risk of a cyber attack? It's not commonly discussed inside the Missouri Capitol, but an expert from Washington, D.C. is warning lawmakers about the protection the state needs. Dr. Peter Pry, and I'm sure you probably heard of him, is the executive director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security. He told members of the House Special Committee on Government Accountability that because of Whitman Air Force Base near Sedalia, Missouri, has a target on its back. Pry oversees a congressional advisory board to protect the U.S. from cyber attacks and electromagnetic pulse attacks. Think of EMP as an anti-technology threat, Pry said. If you take away the electric grid, that's the basis for everything. His warning, the state needs to come up with a protection plan. Missouri needs to worry about this particular one because of the presence of Whitman Air Force Base here in the state, which hosts the B-2 bomber, Price said. The B-2 bomber fleet has been in Whitman Air Force Base since 1993 and has the ability to deliver both conventional and nuclear munitions. The first and most important thing they are going to go after is one weapon system that can threaten their lives, and those are the B-2s, Price said. Price said that it's not the state's job to protect the entire nation, but to also protect... Price said that it's not the state's job to protect the entire nation, but to also protect the electric grid in Missouri. I think they worded that wrong. What we are talking about here are catastrophic blackout scenarios that can basically last not just for 10 days or weeks or months, but forever if the grid is not protected, Price said. His recommendation of a protection plan could cost tens of millions of dollars, and if that's too much for the state, he says to start with places like hospitals and police stations. It has not been mandated to provide for protection against EMP and cyber. It isn't happening, Price said. Government has got to come in and not make it optional for utilities. Most of the utilities and most of the corporations, if they are not required by government to do it, they are not going to do it. Representative Donna Behringer said water and food systems also need protected. By the way, who do you think that cost is going to get handed down to? Says most of our food comes from farms, Behringer said. The state of Missouri is very agriculture-centered, and they have no protection right now if they were to filtrate our food and processing systems. Infiltrate, I do believe. I don't know who wrote this article, but they need to learn how to wrote. She recommends the country and even the state spend more money on teaching coding in schools. Information technology expertise is the number one critical source that we have come up with within this country, Behringer said. Back in October, Auditor Nicole Galloway released the most common cybersecurity risks of local governments. The top issues were former employees didn't have their access to the computer system removed and passwords weren't changed enough. They were shared by users and weren't complex enough. So, and those are big risks, obviously. But, no, this whole thing is why I've been urging people, do what you can to get ready. And I have really been a stickler when it comes to the grid and talking about the likelihood that we'll lose the grid regardless of what scenario unfolds and how it unfolds, and I think we're going to lose the grid. And they're talking about Whitman Air Force Base near Sedalia in Missouri, but folks, especially if you're in the Midwest, you've got so many targets around you. There's so many targets that people have no idea about. There is a lot of stuff in the Midwest that are government installations that are You know, many of them literally underground. There's a lot here. And you better believe that there's a whole lot more that say Russia knows than what we citizens know. Okay? You better believe they know way more locations of U.S. military installations than what we do. So they're all over. Many of them are major targets, including Whitman Air Force Base. But like I've talked about, we've got Scott Air Force Base not far from here. That's Military Airlift Command Center. So it's a massive target. We've got a huge oil storage facility near Patoka, Illinois. We've got a nuclear power plant not super far away up in Coffeen. Callaway County, I believe in Missouri's got one that would be, unfortunately, mostly to our west, but a little south. So, southwest, not a good spot for a nuclear power plant to be. So, let's see. I know I'm missing one, but there's, I'm going over the obvious ones. There are tons and tons. And, when it comes to this, I can't urge people enough. Whatever you have to have, make sure you're getting squared away on it. Make sure you're getting squared away. Because all joking aside, I really do think that we're definitely on a timetable here. And it's not a long one. Being able to do whatever you need to do. Even, I would be, I'm going to be real honest, I would be pretty screwed if I 100% lost technology. If I couldn't have access to, like, my mobile devices, where I've got all kinds of information, that would hurt. I'm not saying it would be, a game ender, so to speak, but it would definitely have long-lasting effects. And make sure that if you have to rely on things like medical equipment that require power and stuff, make sure you're squared away on stuff like that. So, and do what you can. I know there's, some conditions that without a source for medication, you're pretty well done for. And I understand that. I wished I knew answers, but I'm the last one to have those answers. Just do what you can. Wrap up those loose ends, because I really don't think we've got a long time here. They've been doing this stuff for a while, meaning individuals within the government, advisors and whatnot. They've been doing this and talking about this stuff for many, many years now. But there is a much different tone now than what there had been before. I think before, I think a lot of it was just trying to get more money, and they're always good, ready to go for that. But I sense actual panic at this point. Let's face it, our government has kicked the can down the road in just about every instance for a really, really long time. From pretty much A to Z, when it involves our infrastructure, has just been let go to hell. So I wouldn't bank on them doing anything about it. So I wanted to talk about that. I just saw that over the weekend. Like I say, it was actually posted the 11th, but I scrolled past it the other day. Have a drink of coffee. Oh, man. And a vape. But you already knew that, I'm sure. Well, that sounded wrong. Oh, fun. That rocket almost looks like Kim Jong-un. Kind of short and fat. What? It does. Look at it. They're shooting off a statue of Kim Jong-un. I don't think his head's quite that pointy, though. Anyway, North Korea boasts tactical nuke progress. They're piping up again. Says Pyongyang has claimed a successful test of a new type of guided weapon, allegedly designed to increase the efficiency of its tactical nukes. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was present to observe the launch, conducted at an undisclosed time and location. Several undated images. Yeah, they figured out how to take the time and date stamp off the camera. Anyway, published by KCNA State News Agency on Sunday, show the firing of at least one rocket from a mobile launch platform, as well as a smiling Kim surrounded by his generals. The new type, doesn't he always look like, by the way, Kim Jong-un, doesn't, when you see him on video, doesn't he look like the equivalent of somebody in the United States from like the 50s or something, like a baseball player, and there's somebody there filming, and they're like all real happy. It's like they're all real coked up and all like real happy. You know what I mean? And it's like the same thing. You see Kim Jong-un, and it's almost like the same thing. It's really strange. Anyway, the new type tactical guided weapon is of great significance in drastically improving the firepower of the frontline long-range artillery units and enhancing the efficiency in the operation of tactical nukes of the DPRK and diversification of their firepower missions, the KCNA said. Pyongyang has not revealed any technical details of the missile, but the test launch is said to be successful. One of the released photos shows dust and smoke rising from a small island. South Korea's military later said that it had been aware and tracked two projectiles that flew around 110 kilometers at supersonic speeds into the Sea of Japan around 6 p.m. Saturday. The incident prompted Seoul to convene a session of the Presidential National Security Council on Sunday. Congratulating the developers of the new weapon, Kim Jong-un reportedly gave important instructions on further building up the defense capabilities and nuclear combat forces of the country. On Monday, North Korea marked 10 years of Kim Jong-un's rule, with celebrations lasting the whole week, including a grand public event with fireworks on Friday to honor the 110th anniversary of the birth of his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, the nation's founder and first leader. The country has been governed by 3 generations of the Kim family since 1948 and is considered to be the world's most isolated state. So, I don't know. I would say this is something to definitely keep an eye on. I think if there's anybody that's crazy enough to actually just do something really stupid, it's this guy. This is the unpredictable, sawed-off little peckerhead that I think you better watch out for. So, just saying. U.S. using Russian language in war games, says AP. And that's not what the actual, the other headline said, by the way. I can't remember. Anyway, let me get into reading it. U.S. Army is training to do battle in environment heavily shaped by the Russian military campaign against Ukraine, the Associated Press reported on Saturday. The purpose of this month's war game in California is to prepare for future fights against a major adversary such as Russia or China, the news agency said. Some participants in the war games at the Fort Irwin National Training Center in the Mojave Desert are speaking to the Russian language. It added, around 4,500 soldiers from the 2nd Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division, are pitted against the fictional Devonian forces. The exercise is a apparent stand-in for the Russians who control the fictional town of Eugen. In the drill, the enemy fires rockets and missiles, all while using a sophisticated disinformation campaign to make false accusations against American troops. The participants in the drill have their phones ready to film and post quickly to social media, the report said. This is sounding very interesting, is it not? I think right now the whole Army is really looking at what's happening in Ukraine and trying to learn lessons, Army Secretary Christine Wormuth told AP. The Russia-Ukraine experience is a very powerful illustration for our Army of how important the information domain is going to be. During the conflict, Moscow and Kiev have repeatedly accused each other of spreading disinformation. Meanwhile, the U.S. intelligence has admitted that its own information about the situation wasn't rock solid. A report by NBC News earlier this month quoted U.S. officials as saying that Washington was publicizing some unverified data as part of the information war against Russia. The U.S. and its allies have increasingly supplied Ukraine with weapons and gear since Russia attacked the neighboring country in late February. On Wednesday, President Joe Biden announced an additional $800 million in military aid to Kiev. The money will be spent on 155mm howitzers, armored personnel carriers, radars, and kamikaze drones, among other items. The American people will continue to stand with the brave Ukrainian people in their fight for freedom, Biden said in a statement. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said this month that flooding Ukraine with Western weapons will have a negative impact on peace talks. Russia launched large-scale offensive following you. Well, you already know all that stuff. So, but yeah, let me have another sip. It would seem that they are training to invade, but specifically, it would seem that they're not just training to invade, but they're training to invade and take control of the information. From what little bit was really there, which, again, not a whole lot, but from it, I surmise that they see citizens reporting, putting out live video or even taking recordings of video as being an issue. And so it would appear to me that what they're actually training to do is learn how to deal with that. Learn how to prevent people from getting out that information directly from boots on the ground. That's important. In order to control a narrative, that's really important. Look at all of the different things. Look at all of the different crap that governments around the world have tried to pull. But we know better. And we know better because somebody had a camera. Somebody had a phone. And they recorded it. And that was the only way that we got to see the truth. And that's a huge thorn in their side. Citizen media is probably one of the biggest thorns in their side. You better believe they're going to learn how to best deal with it. This is a major information war going on. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. I think that speaks a lot for itself. Oh, man. Fun times. Got one more tab open. Just having a couple of vapes here. I'm not like in a major big hurry or nothing. The reason we buy toilet paper in bulk. I blow my nose like non-stop. Hang on. Figured you didn't want to hear that. Alright. Let's see. And finally here, of course, Biden ally floats idea of U.S. troops in Ukraine. U.S. Senator Chris Coons, Democrat from Delaware, a politician that really needs to be on the front line, described by media outlets as President Joe Biden's closest Senate ally, has raised the idea of deploying American troops to fight Russians in Ukraine, saying he fears the former Soviet Republic will become the Syria of Eastern Europe. The American people cannot turn away from this tragedy in Ukraine, Coons said on Sunday in a CBS News interview. I think the history of the 21st century turns on how fiercely we defend freedom in Ukraine, and that Putin will only stop when we stop him. Asked by host, and by the way, if this isn't being an absolute drama queen, I don't know what is. Look, here's the thing, okay? I really didn't think that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. And I've said this before. And he shocked me. And then I thought, well, okay, then maybe he's just gonna, get the Donetsk or whatever region. And then he kept going. Okay, well, maybe he's taking the whole damn thing. I don't know. And at that point, I knew that I should no longer try to figure out what he's going to do, because I obviously can't. But I will go out on a limb and say I don't see him going in and invading another country. I think Ukraine's it. I think that's all he wants. I could be wrong. But you've got a lot of these politicians out there banging that war drum, making it sound like he's Hitler. And I can't sit here and tell you he's not. I can't sit here and tell you that he's not going to do those things. But what I can tell you is at this point right now, it doesn't appear to be the case. There were issues between Russia and Ukraine. It's not like he's just going and mowing down nations and taking them over. Not yet. If he starts, then yeah, we need to schwack his pee-pee. But as far as this between Ukraine and Russia, man, we need to focus on getting our business dealings out of there is what we need to focus on. Because apparently we got a whole lot of crap going on in Ukraine that we would probably be better off not having going on over there. So, which I think, by the way, has a whole lot to do with our current involvement in that mess. So, I think they're trying to cover a bunch of stuff up, for one, before it's too late. I think it's already too late on some of it. I don't know. Anyway. So asked by host Margaret Brennan about his recent comments calling for U.S. leaders to discuss troop deployments to Ukraine, Coons said policymakers must consider the level of brutality exhibited by Russian forces. He credited Biden with pulling Western allies together to impose crushing sanctions on Russia, but suggested that more direct action may be needed as Russian President Vladimir Putin raises his stakes. If Vladimir Putin, who has shown us how brutal he can be, is allowed to just continue to massacre civilians, to commit war crimes throughout Ukraine without NATO, without the West coming more forcefully to his aid, I deeply worry that what's going to happen next is that we will see Ukraine turn into Syria, Coons said. Presumably, he meant to say that the U.S. and NATO need to come more forcefully to Ukraine's aid, not Putin's. And I'm sure that's what he meant. I'm sure that was just a mess up. Coons worked as an intern in Biden's Senate office in the 1990s and was elected to fill in his former Senate seat in 2010. He was described by the New York Times as Biden's eyes and ears in the Senate. Well, somebody's got to be. While Politico called him the Biden Whisperer, media outlets called him Shadow Secretary of State after the White House sent him on a diplomatic mission to Ethiopia last year. And why don't we just call him the Biden Puppet Master? Anyway, that would probably be the most accurate. String puller, animator, I don't know, remote control guy. I think Biden's wireless, or do you think he's got a cable running from him? And do you think he's got to like be plugged in? I mean, he is a pretty old model. I doubt that he's cordless. So, anyway. Have to install that Bluetooth module. It fits inside the colostomy bag. I'll quit. It's Easter. Oh yeah, that's right. I follow the Torah. Let's see. Brandon would trip. He would trip over the wireless ones. What are you talking about? Let's see. Go ahead and do some headlines. We'll get the hell out of here. You know, it's like I say, there's the last few days the news hasn't been too stupid, but I have a feeling that's going to change. Not sure about this week, but I think it's going to change, and I think we're right on the edge of something major, a major turning point. And it very likely will be the conflict with Russia. So, some way or another. I'm not saying that we'll be trading shots back and forth necessarily or anything. I don't know. But I just feel like something really big. Not the big thing, but something very significant. Alright, starting with news from Friday. A CIA chief names biggest threat. And I can't remember what it is. Probably white supremacy. CIA Director William Burns has outlined the major threats facing the United States, pointing to China's rise on the world stage and Russia's ongoing military offensive in Ukraine as the top challenges. So, there you go. That's what really sucks about Twitter hiding everything and not letting me see the little subtext down here. Because that's how a lot of those they're not little details, but a lot of those details was in that little subtext, like what was happening. Anyway, India gets more Russian S-400s, says media. Let's see. S-400 takes down Ukrainian border attack chopper, says Moscow. And again, this was Friday's stuff, or the stuff I started posting Friday morning. Missile factory outside Kiev destroyed, says Russia. Moody's warns of Russian default. Chinese military responds to wrong signals about Taiwan. Italy rejects ruble payment for Russian gas. Biden offers handshake to imaginary friend. Yeah, that was interesting. NATO warships arrived to Baltic Sea. Palestinians clash with Israeli police at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque. And I can't remember how that's actually pronounced, but Poland bans Russian coal. Russia comments on outcome of Sweden and Finland joining NATO. China won't drain reserves to accommodate the West. Russian president compared to Hitler. Britain to ramp up gas transit to Europe, says reports. Moscow reiterates its primary goal in Ukraine. U.S. lagging on its military obligations, says the media. Russia wants to expand ruble use for energy exports. Russia weighs in on U.S. weapons for Ukraine policy, says media. A British captive who fought in Mariupol describes reality. Stolen $110,000 violin discovered near a trash can. Why can't I make a discovery like that? You know? A member of notorious jihadi Beatles cell convicted in the U.S. Asian country rations fuel amid crisis. Still on Friday's stuff, by the way. EU member states' debt hits an all-time high. U.S. is branded a white supremacy state. See, there you go. There's your white supremacy as being an all-encompassing, world-ending. It's crazy. More countries agree to ruble payments for gas for white supremacy. More countries. Yeah. Moving on. Crypto entrepreneur offered $12,000 for his $2.9 million NFT. You know, I've been thinking about these NFTs. Not buying them, but, I mean, if idiots are actually dumb enough to pay for things like a stupid picture, I can come up with a couple of pictures, you know, make a lot of money. I mean, come on. Think of the awesome stuff I could offer for sale. Lamborghinis and all kinds of stuff. I don't get it. I do not get it. Germany suggests ways to annoy Putin. Okay. I don't know. Have you tried memes? Memes? I mean, because that works on the liberals. I mean, hell, all you got to do is draw a real crude picture of a frog, man, and they freak the hell out. Anyway. Twitter adopts poison pill defense in Musk takeover bid. U.S. official says sunken Russian cruiser was hit by a missile. Finland opens up about NATO membership. Germany seeks to spend billions on weapons for Ukraine, says the media. FBI pins massive crypto heist on North Korea. Ukraine preparing another rocket attack on civilians, Russia warns. Top Ukraine negotiator emerges as biggest earner in Kremlin. Nothing will dissuade the U.S. from arming Ukraine, says the White House, which that's a pretty bold statement. Because, I mean, just that statement alone could throw us into World War III. I mean, in all reality. Biden will not visit Kiev, says the White House. Still on Friday's stuff. U.S. congressman reveals seats on committee are literally bought. Pardon me. We all pretty much knew that. Moscow kicks out EU diplomats. You know, the only thing that Blagojevich did was piss off the wrong person. Okay, Blagojevich didn't do anything different than they had always done, except he pissed off Obama. And so that's why he wound up making license plates. That's it. He pissed off Obama. Obama intended to sell that seat that he sold, and it pissed Obama off, and that's what happened. Let's see. Serbs protest Belgrade's move against Russia. Biden's earnings revealed. UN agency condemns UK plan to send refugees to Africa. Pentagon outlines equity priorities. A U.S. base in Syria attacked from the inside. Yay. We are to yesterday's news. Hang on. On time. All right. Japan sees no issues in radioactive water discharge. No, there couldn't be no issues with that. Again, we're on yesterday's news. Chinese astronauts return from space station. Russia and China to boost freight rail traffic. British commandos return to Ukraine, says the Times. Germans urged to cut back on hot showers to save gas. Germany involved in military biological activities in Ukraine, says Russia. Russia keeps grain flowing abroad. Musk has means to thwart Twitter's poison pill, says reports. U.S. should pay France for loss of Russian gas, says Le Pen. Germany reveals stance on Ukraine refugees. Biden's Ukraine genocide claim puzzles U.S. intelligence, says media. Russia sanctions UK government. Don't call us Russian, says tycoons. Wife of arrested Ukrainian opposition leader appeals to the UK. Nuclear device goes missing. It was like a testing device, and I've seen this happen a few times. And it almost seems like when they report on it that there's a pretty big level of fear-mongering involved. Yes, these devices do have, I guess it's radioactive isotopes. Is it enough to harm somebody? Yeah. If improperly handled, yeah. Is it enough to harm a city? No. Not even remotely. I don't know. You might be able to harm maybe a block. Maybe. And I don't mean... You got to understand, I'm not from the city. So when I say a block, I'm not talking about a New York City block, okay? I'm talking about a small rural town USA block. Maybe about an area that size. And I'm guessing. I don't know exactly how much of what particular element and blah, blah, blah. But it's not enough to make some type of big, crazy device with. But they always kind of make it seem that way. French beauty brand exits Russia. Russia says it destroyed tank factory in Kiev. U.S. Navy fires commander at vital F-35 facility. Ukraine unhappy with EU's weapons supply. hell, I'm unhappy with all the nation's weapons supply to me. I mean, they've really been slacking. Let's see. Zelensky gives his vision of peace deal with Russia. Russian military publishes Ukrainian casualty numbers. Biden breaks campaign promise. Police clash with neither Macron nor Le Pen protesters. Trump endorses J.D. Vance. Germany sees no risks in arms supplies to Ukraine. Arrested Ukrainian opposition leader's wife appeals to Putin. WHO chief promotes Bill Gates' book on next pandemic. 12 injured in shooting at South Carolina Mall, 3 detained. Russia urges Ukrainian forces to surrender. Biden released more border crossers than people in Boston, a document shows. Covered that one. Okay. We are to today's news. Let me have another sip.
What? Low.
Alright. Ornery dog. Alright. See if there's any major announcement. Something just popped up on the convoy stuff. By the way, I know I hadn't mentioned that because I forgot. I don't have a whole lot to wow. Don't have a whole lot to report. I guess this is kind of something big. Hang on here. Let's see. Says here, it has come to our attention that some of the state groups that were on the list we posted have been infiltrated and hijacked. We will be featuring the verified and legit groups that are actually part of the People's Convoy here individually over the course of the coming days. New groups will be created for many states. If you are interested in being a state lead, please PM me so we can discuss what that entails. Once all 50 states are verified and created again if need be, we will post a new revised complete list. We apologize for any temporary confusion this may cause. As of right now, if you are in a state group that does not show myself and or Marcus Summers as an admin, the group is not an official state group for the People's Convoy. Please only join the state you reside in. And it says attention New York, and it's got New York leads there. So I don't know on the group that I'm in if they I'm going to find that out right now. The Illinois group right here. Member admin. See, I am not seeing either Marcus or Chris as a moderator. So the group that I am in, not officially official at this point. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. They may just not have gotten to it yet. There have been a ton of problems. There was more drama on the Telegram as well. So it's just crazy. But as far as the convoy, I don't have a lot to report on that. I didn't watch a whole lot over the course of the weekend because, well, they're just kind of traveling, I guess, on their way. I guess, what is it, Sacramento they're going to? I forget where it is that they're at now. I can't remember the name of the town. But I did watch them earlier this evening as they pulled into their stop. And looked to be quite a few individuals involved in the convoy today. So, and boy, were they raising hell. So I don't know what's all been going on because I haven't been closely watching, but they are still going strong. And I do keep an eye on things. If something major would have happened, I'll make sure you guys will know. So, let's see. Hang on, I got one thing to get tweeted out here that was popped up there. Okay. Fun times. All right. Now to the news I shared out from this morning. Trade body predicts who will suffer most from gas price spike. That would, of course, be Europe. Richest Ukrainian vows to rebuild the country. China's third aircraft carrier launch is delayed, says media. And that partially due to the shutdowns, is what they were saying. One country launches airline exclusively for Russian tourists, says media. The outcome of Russian energy embargo for Germans is predicted. A munitions factory destroyed outside Kiev, says Russia. A riot spread in Sweden amid far-right plans to burn the Koran. Global growth optimism hits an all-time low, says research. Russian tycoon wants pension age lowered to 45. Russia raises export quotas on fertilizers. A former fishing village in China has more billionaires than New York. U.S. military using Ukraine conflict to prepare for future war, says AP. Oh, I covered that. Sorry. Russian military releases first video of sunken warship's crew. Ukraine ready to fight Russia for 10 years, says Zelensky. Support for Russia sanctions drops amid inflation, says a poll. Well, yeah, once people realize that they were the ones that were going to pay for it. RT reporter discovers banned landmines used by Ukraine. Ex-German minister calls out Ukrainian conspiracy theories. Major Russian weapons buyer scraps helicopter plans, says media. EU country bans Russian ships. Russia responds to EU predictions of bankruptcy. Send weapons to Ukraine to prevent world famine, says the German minister. U.S. war crime claim is staggeringly hypocritical, a congresswoman says. UK government and Church of England clash over migration on Easter. NASA may provoke an alien invasion, scientists warn. So now we're not just poking at Russia, we're poking at E.T. We have Hunter Biden laptop, Republican congressman says. West Germans more likely than East to accept cutting back on gas, says a poll. Russia warns of potential run-ins with NATO in the Arctic. UK police and parliament asked to ditch gendered language, says the media. Biden ally floats idea of U.S. troops in Ukraine. Ukraine requests $50 billion in aid. Hell, me too. SpaceX launches spy satellite. Pentagon identifies threats to Arctic bases. Turkey launches military operation in Iraq. And there you have it. The headlines. That's all I got. I don't have anything more for you. I don't know. I'm going to mosey on out of here and relax and, as per usual, be heading to bed here very shortly. So I hope you all have a good night. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Hope to see you then. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.